Masters in Aging volunteers are excited to interview Gayle today. She's a lifelong Winona resident. She's a retired 35-year K-12 educator. She's a horse lover and owner-entrepreneur of the Big Valley Ranch in Winona. Let's check in on Richard and Gayle.
So let's go back to the beginning of all this. What year were you born? And what date?
I was born September 6th, 1939.
Wow.
My parents were married in September of 38. So
Okay.
I came a year later. I'm the eldest of 6 children.
Okay, so you have 5 brothers and sisters?
Yes.
And are they all, what are their names? Do you stay in touch with them? And
I do. They were all at my wedding. None of them live in Winona any longer. But we're all G's. Our mother is Gertrude, and my father is George, and Goetzman. So that's Gigi. Then I'm Gayle. Gary is a year younger than I. Greta is a year younger than Gary. And then 7 years later, my parents had a second family, and that's Gregory, Gwendolyn, and Gordy.
my goodness.
In the order.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is.
And your parents' names are Gertrude and George.
Yes.
And what did they do? Were they farmers?
They were both farmers. My father grew up on the farm here. My grandfather settled here in 1914, and my father was born, of his family, there were 4 boys and 1 girl.
Oh, okay.
And Dad was about the 3rd boy. And he got the farm because the and then he bought it from the other children. And my mother was she was a Kamrowski. And they farmed they had a farm between Cochrane and Fountain City.
Okay.
And there were 15 children in the family. My mother was about the 7th, I believe. And they all passed away in order. The only one who, in the order that they were born, they all kind of passed that way.
Wow.
And I have one Uncle Joe, he's 92, Joseph Kamrowski, he lives in town.
Wow.
He was a construction worker.
15, that's a lot of kids.
And very hardworking,
Yeah.
very hardworking.
Wow. You spent all of your childhood here on this farm? Have you, this has been your place of living for all of your life?
No, the entrance to Valley Oaks was our family farm. This was where grandfather put his farm.
Okay.
And he was hoping, and he retired at this little house. It was just a little box house when we moved in. But we had a big family farm, many, many trees around it for shade. We didn't have a fan, we didn't have air conditioner. And I can remember many a nights when I couldn't sleep and have to sleep in front of the screened window upstairs in the heated bedroom. But we always had a warm house in the winter. We had good parents.
Do you have other childhood memories when you were growing up of good memories of being on the farm and
Oh, yes.
making you want to come back and do this?
Yes,
yeah.
yes. We were raised making hay all the time. It seemed like whenever we begged to go swimming, Dad would say, "We make hay when the sun shines." So that's what we did. See, to this day, I love it when it rains, because we made hay when the sun shines all summer long. And a rare day that we would have off would be the rainy days. Very rare day would we have a sunny day. Even if the equipment was broken down, that would be a day that maybe we'd have a day off. Mother was always the one. We had loose hay, and the wagon was pulled by horses. Dick and Bill were the team that I can remember. There was Queenie also, but she was a nice, more of a riding horse. But they were kept really busy. Our parents did their own shoeing and trimming of the hooves. But I remember when my dad would come home from cultivating or raking the hay or cultivating the beans or the corn, he'd come in and he'd say, "Gayle, he'd lift me onto the horse. I want you to take this team, let them drink a little bit, and then take them and let them graze a little bit." And I was just maybe 8 years old. Wow. And he'd leave them he'd leave all of the harnesses on, put the reins up, and I went, and that was really a delight for me. I waited till he'd come in. Then we had a great big garden, and we'd plow the garden. He'd plow the garden with a one bottom plow, and he would put the reins around his neck, hold on to the plow, and put me on the horse. And we plowed a lot of garden soil, probably at least for 3 or 4 years. I can remember riding. So I loved horses right away. And in those days, we didn't have any TV. We had radio. The old house was Grandpa and where Grandma and Grandpa were, where they lived at first until they built a retirement home for Grandpa here. And I'm in Grandpa's retirement home.
Oh, okay.
But Dad and Mother and us all lived over where Valley Oaks Drive is right now.
Okay.
That's where our
Okay.
home was.
Okay. So you went to high school here in Winona?
Yes, I went to Washington Kosciuszko grade school through 9th grade. I loved it. I loved school. Dad was very school orientated. He loved to do athletics. We had a chinning bar in the house going into the dining room, and we had a chinning bar coming into the barn. We had to chin ourselves whenever we went in and out. And we never, if Dad was always kind of watching to make sure we did that, and we could chin ourselves really good. I remember in Phi Ed, I could climb the rope really good. For a woman, a girl, and I could do a lot of athletic things. It's just because of the way we grew up.
Oh, sure. Working hard and
Yes.
on a farm and having
Yeah.
those things to do, yeah.
Yeah.
What year did you graduate from high school?
Then I graduated from high school in '57.
Where did you go to college?
So I went to Winona State.
Okay,
Well,
right
it was
here.
Winona State Teachers College at the time.
Okay.
Yes, and I did get a small scholarship. And so I really do think it really got me started.
So you graduated from college in 61?
61.
61. And
Yes.
then what was your first job?
Then I went to work at Northrop Elementary School in Rochester. And I can remember taking a group of 5 people, and only 2 of us, I think 2 of us were hired out of that group.
And so you taught in Northrop how many years?
I taught there only 1 year. And then they said Dr. Hoff was at Lincoln School, and they needed somebody to teach an excelled 5th grade. So I had heard that, and I put my application in, and he said, come and see me. So one day he told me when, but I came a little in the morning before he went to school and before I took off to Rochester, and I remember he was shaving, and his face had some shaving cream on, and he came right in, because you're this executive administrator, very nice, down-to-earth person, Dr. Carol Hoff. He came to the door, oh, Gayle, yeah, I'll remember you're coming, handed me the application. We talked for a few minutes, but it was really interesting for me to see a man half-shaved, and he had his shirt underneath, the T-shirt. It was just unusual, and I'll always remember that. And then his office was at Lincoln, so I would see him quite often, and we'd talk, and I really liked him. It's a nice man.
And so you taught those kids, and did you teach those kinds of classes all 35 years of teaching, or you had many different experiences with different groups of
different
kids?
groups? I had the excelled 5th grade, which I really enjoyed, and that was it. They went up to 6th grade, and then and we always had 30-some children in that. There was just one class of each grade. So it was, I went to 4th grade. After that, I got a 4th grade position, Lincoln School. I taught there for, I think, 8 years. Then the 6th grade teacher wanted to be a 4th grade teacher, and there was an opening for 3rd grade at WK, Washington Kosciuszko, the school that I went to when I was a child. When I was a youngster going to school, I loved it. I loved school. I worked in the cafeteria for my meals. I worked after school for extra spending money because at that time I was becoming a teenager and I was wanting to get a horse and ride. And then we had many horse shows. That was our main entertainment, was an activity in those days.
So you came back to the ranch when you came back to Winona to teach, and was it because of what got you into the developing? Did you always have this without this love of horses that kind of drew you to this kind of life? Because you've been at this now for, a long time.
Absolutely. I grew up with horses, the team of horses that I rode, and then with my father having the horse plowing the garden. I grew up loving horses and all animals. And so we all had horses. We would hire Osmond Trucking. He had a great big semi, and he hauled my dad's cattle to market and back and forth. So we hired his truck. It would hold 9 horses, and we would go to local horse shows. They always paid to third place. We always made enough money from our winnings to pay for the hauling and to pay for a little lunch on our way home. And that was so much fun. We had such a good group of kids.
When did you marry? Was it right out in college or when you got out of college?
No, I was 23. I got married. My boyfriend, I met him at a dance, and his name was Robert Chabilski, and very, very handsome man. And he and Paul Watkins were best friends. I met them at a dance, my girlfriend and I, and of course it was kind of at the end of the evening, and they got enough nerve to ask us to dance. I was in college at the time, so I married him the second year of teaching. I taught 1 year so I could afford, and then summer school. I taught summer school also. I taught reading, remedial reading in summer school. And then I was working in Winona, and I had the boyfriend, and we ended up getting married. And I can remember when he gave me the ring, we were walking down past the Methodist church at that time, and he said, "Gayle, catch." He threw the ring and the box up in the air. I caught it. That's how he proposed to me, here, catch. And then he asked me if I'd marry him. And then we married August 1st, went on a month's honeymoon that I paid for because I had saved up the money. We came home from the honeymoon, and he said, "Honey, I want to tell you something. I quit my job and I don't want children." I said, "Why did we get married?" And he kind of stepped back, and I knew the answer. "So you can take care of me now." But I wanted the best. We both loved horses. We both rode. I went with him for 5 years. Never lived together, but we're best friends. Did everything together. We rode horses and did a lot of fun things together with our friends. So anyway, that's how our marriage began.
Okay. And so, and you didn't have children through that.
We never had children. He did not. And I was thinking, we've got to make the best of this. Let's do what he wants to do. If he wants to be a horseshoer, that's fine because we needed horseshoer. That was our main entertainment.
Yeah.
So let's do the horseshoeing. You take care of the barn. I'll do the teaching. We'll do the riding and horse shows and do all that together. So he went out to Sturgis, South Dakota. I started school September 5th at Lincoln, and he went out September 1st for 6 months of horseshoeing.
Did this all happen while you were married to him? Did you build this while you were together?
Yes.
This whole complex here?
Yes. I came home from school one day, and he had this big plan, all planned out. He had put it together that we were going to build this big indoor ring. He was going to have a Western store. We were going to have a nice big lounge, have horse shows, horse auctions. We were going to have all of this. I think we gave Kendall O'Brien men. A lot of the farmers worked for Kendall O'Brien, very hard working labor men. And it gave them a job for the winter. And supposedly, my Bob was not a good businessman. We built, they had, I remember them dynamiting holes to put the posts in during the winter. They were dynamiting the holes to put it in. My man who's in construction now, he says, man, that's not good, you know, dynamite the holes. But it gave the men a job for the winter, and it's a very strong built barn. And I remember I made friends with the guys that were building the barn because they were farm neighbors even. And I would go down and talk with them once in a while when I could, and they would say how strong they were making and how good this building was going to be. And it was actually the biggest barn other than the barns up at the state fair. And it was a big indoor arena. I had a 100 by 200 indoor arena. Nobody had an arena that big. So we had many horse shows. Part of the width was taken up with bleachers. So we had many, many horse shows. And Bob would work very hard to build, get everything done. And we did have a big grand opening. During the grand opening, the lights all went out. We had lights strung outside because we have a lot of extra horses that we were boarding. And we had built areas in the drain fields. They didn't really build the barn up high enough, I didn't think, but it was what they had planned, and I knew nothing. But now I can see, since the new addition that now subdivision goes in, I can see how low we are, and we get all the water at this end. And I always worry for getting all these big rains with the climate change that maybe we would have a problem. But so far, I've been blessed. We haven't had it.
And so now many years have passed, and you're still, you know, they don't do the shows here anymore. I understand some of that's changed, but you still have how many horses here?
There are 35 horses. I limit it to 35. We can easily take care of 35. I had a young girl. Her name is Barbara Sheeler. I love her to death. She asked me if she could grow her horse business here after I was divorced. And I said, well, maybe Bob was still here. And anyway, she brought 5 mares and a stallion. Pretty soon, after 12 years, she had more horses here than I did. And I got to thinking, Barb, do you know how many horses you have here? She said, no. So I, you know. And didn't make, but it was getting to the point where if her horse broke something, and I was struggling to pay my mortgage. I was struggling. I struggled for almost 40 years. I'd go to bed at night and I couldn't sleep until I wrote a note. What am I going to do today to make this pay, to make it work? What can I do more? And so I started riding lessons at Winona State. I did it for 6 years. And then all of a sudden, my administrators at school, at my classes got so big. I was teaching twice a week. Pretty soon it went to 3 times a week. Pretty soon I was teaching every day of the week, 5 days a week. When I finished teaching riding lessons, I had 49 kids in my last class, students. And I loved it. And they loved it. And it was so good. And at that time, I thought, you know what? I work so hard. I don't get much for teaching the riding, although I love it. I loved teaching elementary school at Lincoln. If I'm going to keep my job, I better decide which one I can take. So I just kind of then it got to be where it was getting to be too much for me, actually. I was going through the divorce, and it was getting to be too much. The hours that I put in teaching riding were getting to be too much. So I had to drop that.
We understand that later in life your mother developed Alzheimer's, and how did that affect your family? I know there was a memory walk, an annual memory walk that is maybe in her name, is it?
Yes, we honored her in a memory walk. I don't recall the date. I'm a little slow in getting my older papers organized, but I'm promised to do that now. and this group got me started in really thinking about it. But I really have good memories of taking care of Mother. She was 80, and I'm going to be 80 soon. She was 80 when she had full-blown Alzheimer. And I really do believe that maybe some of this might some of this dementia is due to not only in the DNA maybe a little bit, but I think it's the way she had to, the things that she had to endure. Yeah, my dad was not very kind to her. My dad was a good father, a good provider, but a workaholic. He never came to any of our school things, but he was always in the barn. My mother worked, she did the milking morning and night. Dad was in the field. And sometimes he would help. We were always doing something or another. There was never a dull moment. And you never said you were bored. We never were. There were always so many things to do.
How did your grandparents come to be on this land?
I'm not real sure how my grandparents did. You know, we didn't talk about it in those days. I wish I would have. Now I would, and that's a regret. Yeah. That I didn't do that. And I also regret I didn't follow up with many of my friends that have been, have I been as compassionate, as kind as I wish I would have been more, and I think of now. Yeah. Taking care of Mother being Alzheimer's, I should have kept her in my home, but you know, it got to be, I didn't understand that disease. It was
very difficult. A few years ago, it became a century farm.
Yes.
Which means, what, and also, so it came in some type of land trust. You spoke about that?
Yes. Yes.
Say a little bit about that.
Well, when my father married a younger lady, and they did have 4 children in 8 years. They did have 4 children. They were married for 8 years, well, in 10 years. They had 4 children, and they named them right after my dad's brothers and brothers. But anyway, when they got together, then Dad died at 63. She was 25. And then she got the farm. I bought my 170 acres when Bob and I married. We convinced Dad that we were going to help him when he got older. We'd be here forever. And so he let us buy a little bit of acreage. So when Daddy died, we wanted to get our rest of our farm back. We ended up getting into a bidding war with the realtor, and we'd always have the bid. My brother came, 20 years in the Air Force. He was retired. He came to do the bidding. And we all pooled our money, us 6 kids, pooled our money. Nobody had anything but he and I, because we were the 2 oldest. And the other kids didn't have anything. So we got into the bidding war, and I gave him my ranch to put in as something to use for collateral. But it ended up that we just didn't have enough money. And the city fathers, he had it all planned. It was going to be built anyway, developed anyway. We do wish we could have gotten it. We regret that now, that we didn't try harder. But who's to know?
But you but this land now is in a land trust.
Okay.
And what is that? And that means?
When I saw that all getting developed, I was thinking, oh my, I don't ever want my land developed. I grew up on the farm that I loved. It's close to town, a very good location. Why would I ever give this up? I worked so hard for what I had. So I talked to Dick Gallion, talked to me about doing a family Minnesota land trust. He said he'd put his in a land trust, I put mine in a land trust. But what I did, I just didn't want it developed. I wanted this to remain an academy or a horse stable forever. We have a waiting list of people that want to come and keep their horses here. My manager does a very good job. We've always done a good job of keeping the horses humanely taken care of. I want it to remain a ranch. I have 5 different mile-long trails. We aren't doing trails now any longer. I have a daughter that will take over in a couple of years. I don't know what she's going to do. We had therapeutic riding when I was here for many years, and I had it for 10 years, but I had a girl that working with me that really enjoyed the therapeutic riding, and she took her classes for therapeutic riding. She never graduated from the class, but she had gone to many of them, and she knew what to do. So we all wore blue shirts. I had somebody from the ranch, a royal blue shirt with a white rearing horse, and I had somebody put it together and design it, and all of us at work wore the blue shirts. And then they knew we were workers. My apprentices got a shirt, we had shirts. And I miss those days when everything's together. I didn't have dogs, we just had cats. Didn't seem to have.
Well, what are you looking forward to now in this stage of your life? You say your daughter is going to take over. You have a manager who helps with the ranch.
Yes.
What are you looking forward to now? You're newly married.
Yes.
So what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to doing just what I'm doing. Right now, I'm going to have a birthday party in September at the Legion, and I'll have it in the papers, so everybody's invited. And that is just, I want everybody to give me a card with their life lesson. One of my lessons was have a child. Because I got all this stuff and I wasn't married, and who do you give it to? You know, all my brothers and sisters don't even live here any longer. I'm the one that love this, and it's my thing. I have nobody. So when I met Ben, it was 2 weeks he moved in with me. 2 weeks later, we had his children. He's a very good dad. They were 10 and 11. Tina was 10, Kurt was 11. We raised them like family. They were my children. Wow. They were always ours.
Yeah.
So anyway, we raised them, and she will take over, and whatever she does, she has horses now. Grandgirls have horses. I want it to just remain in the trust. The people come and manage us every year. They come and we take them on the land and show them that we're managing it correctly. We're taking out the invasive species. We aren't over fencing. We aren't I did do a little timbering because I needed a little bit of money, but they said, we need to manage this. And I thought, I'll just have them do it then. Let them manage it. Now I just like to we're taking a few bus trips. We love to dance. I've got lots of people. I belong to many clubs, and I just want to organize my memoirs. That's tell my story.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to tell us?
There are a lot of things I'd like to tell you. Just when you know better, you do better.
Okay.
And there's life lessons. Have a child. I mean, every woman should have a child if they can. If they can't, adopt one, whatever. But there should be somebody to take over your life's work. Every person that I meet that has been here when we were growing up and riding horses have said how much fun we had in the old days, how much fun it was. And I still don't do the computer thing because I'd rather be outside. I do the weed eating. He does the mowing, I do the eating. And and there's always something that needs to be done. Yeah. We have a grandchild that passed away, so we honor her. I have a tree out there that's in her honor. I just think I want to spend more time with my friends, my family. I want to do my memoirs and let them know what fun we had. And life lessons. I have a lot of life lessons, so that you'll see when you see my other things.
Okay, wow.
I wish I had.
Well, thank
Hard
you.
to think of everything when I'm
no,
here.
I think you. What a story, and what an honor for you to invite us in and allow us to tell your story, which is it's just an amazing story and one that needs to be told and shared.
Thank you.
So we're very grateful.
Yeah, thank you.